Brand new week, and we're going to talk about long range shooting and hell and back. What is that? What is he talking about there? Has he been to that? Well, you'll find out. You'll find out that and whatever it is that blows our skirts up or floats our boat or whatever phraseology you want to use. I have Jared. I have Zach. I have myself. We're all linked live via satellite. We're going to talk to you as soon as the bump music ends.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It is I, the Pimp Hand of America, and we are getting ready to do a brand new show, a brand new episode of Student of the Gun Radio. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're relatively new or you're brand new, hold on. Grab something and hold on because you have no idea what you're in for. You're like, well, I pretty much figured out from the title what's about to happen. No. But it's okay. The trick is we don't expect you to get it right away. If you got it right away, if it was easy, see, if it's easy, anyone could do it. But it's not. Drinking my Joe from my Hollywood mug. Yes, indeed. All right. And Ed, if you're still out there listening, thank you for the coffee mug. If you're not, then never mind. All right, what do we do every single Monday, and what have we been doing every single Monday? Well, what we've been doing is we've been offering you a Duracoat finished firearm of the week, and today is no exception. Boom, 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 boom. All right, today's Duracoat finished firearm of the week is an AR-15 pistol and the Hell and Back. What in the world is that? Well, if you've been paying attention to the Duracoat world for a while, you'll know that they came out with what would you call it? A design pattern or a finished design. Essentially, it looks distressed. And you say, well, not everybody wants to have a shiny new gun or a gun that looks like it just came out of the box, right? Some people want to have a gun that looks like it's battle worn or distressed or the Hell and Back. And so what they did a few years ago is they came out with a finishing technique called the Hell and Back battle worn distressed finish, right? And I said, okay, I'll play your little game. I'll do that. And I built this gun. This gun is an AR-15 pistol. And if you start from the front, you'll see that there is a Spike's Tactical Barking Spider. And then there's a free-floated rail over the, I believe it's a 10.5-inch barrel. That came from Samson. And then we've got the lower receiver, which is actually a Rock River lower. And I've got this is a CAC blade. That's right. It's a KAK blade stabilizing brace. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And on top of it, I have a not a barking spider, a black spider mini red dot. And then I have backup sights, and of course I have the A-frame front sight. Now the finish, you say, man, that looks all worn and scraped and stuff. Yeah, it looks battle worn, right? It looks like it's been for Hell and Back. Well, that was on purpose. And there's a technique that you do. They actually have a little technique. It's not that hard. The actual white it's a Winter Mirage Flage. It's kind of a snow gray white, kind of a snow gray white, not a bright white, but kind of, you know how when you go to the paint store and they have 87 different shades of white. I thought white was white. No, white is eggshell. White is winter cloud. White is anything. So that is a winter mirage flash. It's kind of a gray white. So this is a great winter gun. And you could use it in the summer too. You don't have to just use it in the winter. Something that's actually kind of cool is Samson has this little sneaky thing that they put in the grip here. If you were ever out in the field and you didn't have a knife or a tool, this is a blade. It's both a blade and, of course, what do we have to put on everything in the world? A bottle opener. So this is a blade. It's a cut blade. No, it's not a fighting blade or a tactical blade. It's basically a utility blade that is always there. It's in the pistol grip. So you had your rifle and you're like, crap, I don't have a knife on me or something, whatever. It doesn't matter. And it also has a little a hex wrench in there and a bottle opener because you never know when you're in the field. Every single multi-tool, everything in the world has a bottle opener. You'd think that it was 1967 where every beer bottle in America was a pry-off. With as many bottle openers that are out there in the world. Zach, doesn't a Ready Man have a pocket everyday pocket tool that has a pry out beer tab pry off?
Yeah. Well, I think brain. Yes, it does.
It's like a wrench thing and a screwdriver thing, and it also has a beer tab pry off.
Oh, that one? We haven't sold that one in a while. But our EDC tools can be used as pry-offs if you're really dedicated to it.
Because Josh pulled one out of his pocket the other day. He's like, I got one of these. And I was like, aha, that's that one.
Did it look like a beetle?
Body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looked like a beetle. And it's got a beer tab pry-off. You're like, haven't they had twist-offs in America for like 38 years? And I'm like, well, don't worry about it. But if you buy imported beer or Mexican beer or European beer, you have to pry that sucker off, right? So, and if you don't have an AK magazine, and if you don't know how to pry a beer off with an AK magazine, I feel bad for you. But you can. It's better to use the steel ones. Remember we went to the team room and there's an AK mag with a magnet on it stuck to the refrigerator?
Yep.
That's your beer pry.
Yep.
Right there.
The good stuff.
So if you want to do a Duracoat finish, you're like, I like Duracoat finishes, but I don't want my gun to look like it just came out of the box. I want it to look badass. If you want it to look badass, you can do the hell and back finish. So it still protects the gun. And the trick is what you do is you put something like a slightly darker black finish on it first. Let it harden, right? And then you put the color on top of it and you do the worn distressed thing to the top coat. And so it's completely sealed and the gun is completely protected from corrosion, but it also looks badass. It looks hell and back. Yes, indeed. You say, well, how can I learn to do really cool techniques like that so that with my gun shop, my FFL, I can make a little extra cash, put some ducats, put some Republic credits in my account? How can I do that? Is there a way for me to do that, Jerry?
It's super easy. Go to DuracoatFireArmFinishes.com and click on that Duracoat training tab and sign up for the Duracoat University, and you can get the proper instruction that you deserve.
Yes, and if you go to the show notes, there's a direct link from the show notes. Just click it, boom, it'll take you straight to the university, and you can learn how to do super cool, badass patterns just like that. And like I said, if you're an FFL guy, or you got a small shop or a gun shop or whatever, and you want to put a few extra Republic credits into your account, that's a great way to do it. There you go. All right, so we talked about Duracoat, DuracoatFireArmFinishes.com. Crossbreed Holsters wants you to be dangerous on demand. How can you do that? Well, go to crossbreedholsters.com, and when you decide to purchase a product from them, use the promotional code SOTG, save some money, You'll get a high-quality, made-in-the-USA holster that's not a piece of Chinese garbage, and you're going to save money. So win-win-win, right? Exactly. Brownells, we talked about them last week in great detail. Brownells at brownells.com. They've got 850,000 products in their catalog. Some are out of stock, and that's fine because that's the way the world is now. But if you want to know when they're in stock, you click the Notify Me button, or you can just text BRN to 556-223, and they will send you a notification when new products and ammo and all that stuff is in stock.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. We're trying to make your life easier for you. We really are. We're trying to help you out here. It's what we do. All right, it's Monday, and if you're a new listener, or if you know a new listener, or you might someday be a new listener, pay attention. Listen up.
Attention, new listeners. We produced a complimentary online training course called 7 Training Tips That Could Save Your Life. Get instant access by joining the Student Lounge for free at studentofthegun.com. Do you watch Student of the Gun TV, read the blog, and follow us on Facebook? If you answered no to any of these questions, you are wrong, but you can easily fix yourself. Go to studentofthegun.com to find everything SOTG.
Dun, 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 dun. So if you guys are not in the grad program, you missed out on a couple of great bonus hours last week. You missed out on Thursdays, where we spent a good amount of time talking with our friend Carlos Lozano from Bushnell Optics and Outdoor Products, telling us what's new and what's going on with Bushnell, some of the new products they have, some of the improvements on existing products, and so on and so forth. We had a good Friday, too. We talked about reloading, the benefits of reloading, what's new in the reloading world, and, of course, about Patriot Fire Team endeavors. And if you listened on Thursday, you'll know that Bushnell is actually celebrating this year 25 years of providing affordable laser rangefinders to sportsmen and outdoorsmen and shooters just like you.
Nice.
This is when you say, get the Farfignugan out of here. You're telling me that laser rangefinders have been available for 25 years to the American shooter? Yep. Could it possibly have been that long? Yeah, I know. When I heard that, I was like, wow, really? It's been that long? Now, laser rangefinders themselves have been around for a long time. But before, they were really expensive, and the only people that could afford them were people who were spending your tax dollars, i.e. law enforcement, military, super cool gee whiz guys like that. When I was over in the desert, the tanks were using laser rangefinders, and you're welcome. And they gave us these special laser protective glasses. Did I ever tell you about those, Jared?
No, I don't think so.
They issued us these green tinted laser protective glasses to wear because when the tanks were laser ranging, if that laser lazed over your eyeballs, it would fry them. Remember in the old days when lasers first came out, they had laser light shows. They're like, this is great. And the lasers are all over the place. And then one comes down and it sweeps across the audience. Everyone's like, yeah, I'm blind. You just burned my retinas out. Yeah, that was the thing. And they're like, yeah, we should probably tone down the wattage on the laser there and not burn people's eyeballs out. Just saying, not burn out people's retinas. No, when I was in the Gulf War Part 1, of course, we didn't know it was going to be Part 1 back then. It was just the Gulf War. It's like being in World War I. You're running around over there in, Belgium and France and stuff. And you're like, hey, man, what are you doing? Or, what war are you in? It's like, I'm in the Great War. Like, no, you're in World War I. I'm from the future. This is just the first one. What?
What?
Yeah, we didn't know. We were running around over there in Kuwait and, Iraq and Saudi Arabia. We're running around the desert. And like this is going to be the start. We're going to come back again in 20 years and do it all over again. Why would we do that? I don't know, because we didn't finish it right the first time. And guess what, kids? We didn't finish it right the second time either. So here's my prediction. This thing is going to be a trilogy. The Gulf War is going to be a mother-fletching trilogy because episode 1, we did good, but we didn't do enough. Episode 2 took way too long, and we didn't finish it right. So there's going to be an episode 3, Return of the fill in the blank. Return of the Sand People.
That's funny.
Gulf War Part 3, Return of the Sand People. They're already, Jared, did you see the videos where the Taliban has taken over all the former U.S. bases?
Jeez.
And experts are predicting that within 6 months, the Taliban will regain control of the country of Afghanistan. Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful? So we spilled all that blood and national treasure just for them to take the country over again. If we ever decided to get serious, we could probably knock this crap off. But whatever. Read Orwell, man. Read Orwell. Read 1984, Oceania and Eastern Asia or whatever, Pacifica. Never-ending wars. All right, moving on. 25 years of laser rangefinders. Now, something that we discussed at length as a group during the last week with the Vista Outdoors event was how the invention of and the distribution of affordable laser rangefinders has led to, and a lot they believe directly, and I'm kind of on board with it. It has led directly to the increase in long-range shooting by the average person. Think about it. In order to shoot long range, right, whatever that range is, you've got to know. You have to know. Because before there were laser rangefinders, if you guys go back with me, back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, maybe. A lot of you guys are like, 40 years ago, I wasn't even born yet. Okay, it's cool. But think about it. If you wanted to shoot beyond 50 yards, 75, 100, or whatever, you had to somehow figure out the distance. Now, most of us, you'd go to a public range and they had measured off. They took a little wheelie measure or whatever, and they measured off 100-yard berm, and they put up plywood. And so from this bench to that plywood is 100 yards or meters or whatever, right? And so you'd sit down there and you'd zero your scope so that all your rounds went into the X and at 100 yards. You're like, great, thumbs up. Awesome. But then you might go out and you say, well, I'm looking across this field and I see things out there, but they're farther than 100 yards. Well, how far are they? Is it 250? Is it 300? Is it 400? Is it 175? I don't know. You had to learn to estimate range, and that is a skill. The ability to look at an object in the distance and estimate the range to that object correctly within, let's say, 25 yards is a definite skill. And you learn that through experience and training. When I was in the Marine Corps, when I was in infantry school, we went through range estimation training. They taught us several different ways to estimate range and distance. And we practiced those things. But a lot of people haven't had the benefit of military training or whatever, or maybe they didn't have a grandpa or an uncle that took them out or dad and sat them on the side of a hill and said, okay, that tree line right there is about 100 yards. Now, right up, go down into the creek and then up across the creek and then up to the other side. And you see that great big rock there? How far away is that? And you're like, I don't know, 300 yards, 500 yards. Like, well, let's figure it out. It was a skill, right? And if you hope to hit something at 400, 500, 600, 700, 800 yards, before you can do that, you've got to know the distance, right? Because you have to know what setting to put on your scope. Well, 25, 30 years ago, the average person was just out there guessing. And if you're guessing at 200 or 300 yards, the difference in bullet impact, 200-300 yards, is only a few inches. The difference in bullet impact between 100 and 700 is feet. It's several feet. So how do you figure that out? Well, companies like Bushnell Optics started making laser rangefinders. And so what people were able to do for the first time in the United States was to get a device, look through it, push a button, hold it for a couple seconds, and boom, it'd come back and say, okay, that berm right there or that cluster of trees or whatever, that's 545 yards. Like, aha! So once people gained the ability to correctly calculate distance, then they could translate that into their rifles. They could translate that into rifle dope. They could do that. And they're like, well, hell, now that I know that's exactly 600 yards, I've got my tables right here. I got my ballistic tables, and it tells me exactly, how much elevation to put on this scope. And I can, boom. Now I'm hitting targets at 600 yards. And they're like, well, hell, if I can hit targets at 600, I bet I could hit them at 7. I've got the dope. I can hit them at 8. And a lot of this goes back to, the ability to the invention of the laser rangefinder and the ability for it to be affordable. It's kind of like night vision and thermals and so forth. 30 years ago, we had night vision. 20 years ago, we had thermal. It was $10,000 per unit. You're like, that's kind of high. I can't really justify to my wife a $10,000 thermal imager. Honey, why don't we have a car anymore? I sold it, but I have this really cool thermal imager now. We're getting divorced, and I'm going to take that thermal imager from you in the divorce.
You can have half. Here you go.
You're going to have half of the thermal imager. I'm going to cut it up with a chainsaw. But think about it. So when people were able to go out and purchase a laser rangefinder, they were able to extend their practical, realistic shooting distances. And so what happened in America, Jared? Guys are like, well, hell, I can go out to a field. I can go to a range. I can laze out to 5, 6, 7, 8. I can 1,000 yards now. So what do I need? Now that I know I can get out to 1,000 yards, now the next question is, do I have a rifle combination, rifle, caliber, optic, that can actually do that?
Mm-hmm.
You're if you go to Academy Outdoors and you buy a $72 scope with a 1-inch tube and capped, captivated or closed adjustments, you're probably not getting out to 500 yards. You're probably not getting out to 600 yards. And you're definitely not getting out to 1,000 yards. So let's talk about what it takes to shoot long range. Well, first of all, you need to be able to know the distance. Because if you're just guessing, if you're out there like, I don't know, it might be 4, it might be 5, it might be 6. There's a big difference in bullet impact, brothers and sisters, between something that's 450 and 6 or 595 or whatever. Like I said, between 1 and 200 yards, your bullet drop is, most people don't even change their dope for a 100 or 200 yard shot. They just put the crosshair kind of at the top and it's there. But once you get beyond 3, gravity grabs hold of that bullet and it starts pulling it down. And I don't care how fast it's going, it's still pulling it down. You're like, no, my ballistic coefficient is 1,000. Okay. Even if you're shooting ballistic coefficient bullets that are 1,000, you're like, that doesn't exist. There's no that doesn't happen. But the gravity is still in force. Gravity don't care about your bullets. It's going to pull them to the ground. And you've got to figure out how to fight against that gravity. And that's by adjusting your scope and angling the bullet up. So the impact of a shot between 3 and 5 or 5 and 6 is pretty huge. And it's mathematical. So the farther away from the rifle it gets, the greater that angle becomes, and the more adjustments, the better adjustments you have to make. You've got to be right on. guesstimating at 625 yards is not going to help you. You're like, I think so, whatever. I'll just go throw bullets down range. If you're shooting at something that's going to move away, like a coyote, he's not going to stand there and let you work up the perfect dope. You're like, what? No. Yeah. You get basically one shot, and then he's gone. So how do we do that? Number one, we need to be able to tell the difference, the distance. Now, some people are very fortunate, and they have ranges that have known distance berms and targets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000, whatever, right? Some people are very fortunate. They can do that. Some people have to go out and set their own stuff up and just figure it out with their laser rangefinder. Let's say you live in West Texas and you got plenty of open land, and you're going to take some, who's our target makers in Salt Lake City, Jared? Action?
Yeah, the action targets down here in
Provo. So you went to the Provo company, Provo, Utah's company, Action Targets, and you got some steel targets, and you're going to put them out, way out, and you're going to shoot them bad mamma jammas with your rifle. You got to figure out how far away they are because you need the dope. So once you do that, you say, all right, great. Now that translates into what kind of glass is on top of my rifle? Do I have the ability to grab that top turret? Because I've already zeroed it in 100, got my windage down. That's good. Got my 100-yard elevation down. I've zeroed it, got my zero stop set. Okay, rock on. Now, how many clicks do I have to put on that thing to get to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? I don't know. You tell me. Unfortunately, unfortunately, brothers and sisters, I don't know if you've looked lately, but there are a lot of scopes out there. There are a lot of companies making them. There are a lot of companies selling them. A lot of companies advertising them. Some are, short range or mid range, and some are long range, and some are XL extreme. I know there's a couple companies out there right now that are advertising their rifles as extreme long range, and I don't know what their definition of extreme is. And it depends where you live. If you're listening to me right now and you're like, I live in New Jersey and my local range has a 100-yard berm and that's it. And I go into the woods and I sit in a tree stand, and the farthest line of sight from where I'm sitting is about 72 yards. Rock on. That's awesome. But you probably don't need a 34 millimeter tube and a 56 millimeter objective lens and the ability to dial out to a mile if the farthest you're ever going to shoot is 74 yards. That's a waste of your money. You don't need to spend $1,700 on an optic if you're going to shoot 72 yards. But maybe you don't live there. Maybe you're moving out west where things are a little bit wider open. You're like, yeah, I can take 3, 4, 500-yard shots. It's available to me. I can do it. Now you need to start looking at your optics. And it's not a hard and fast, but generally the larger the tube on your scope. Right now in America, you have 1 inch, which was the standard. And what I've noticed, Jared, have you noticed this? Is 1 inch stopped being the standard and now 30 millimeters the standard?
You cut out for a second.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. The standard for tubes, for scope tubes, the base tube, 1 inch used to be the standard.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, 1 inch was the standard for longest. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to make 30 millimeter tubes just a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And that gives us more adjustment. That gives us more vertical adjustment. You don't need that much horizontal adjustment, okay? You're not going to be putting 3 mils of wind dope on your I don't know. But, and the thing is, if you're shooting long range, you set your wind and you leave it alone and don't touch it anymore, okay? But elevation. So 30 millimeter became the standard. Night Force, Loophole, lots of companies, Bushnell Optics, Nikon for a while. Nikon's kind of out of it now. They came up with 30 millimeter tubes, US Optics, so on and so forth. Well, then people say, yeah, but But what if we want to shoot beyond 1,000? Like, damn, how far do you freaks want to shoot? You're like, I don't know. How far can we shoot? So people started getting, long-range shooters started getting, this is what I find hilarious, bored with 1,000-yard shooting. They're like, that's too easy. It's too easy. Well, you say, all right, I want to dial out to 12, 13, 1,400 yards. Well, a lot of these scopes were running out of elevation. Couldn't dial anymore. Now you got to do holdover. And as soon as you start doing holdover, you start playing the guesstimation game. You're like, I have a Horus reticle. Just stop. Okay. For those of you who don't have Horus reticles, the fact is it's always better to dial because that's exact. That's not a guesstimation. It's exact. It's always better to dial. So a lot of companies, Bushnell being one of them, came out with 34 millimeter tubes on their scopes. That's not the focal lens. It's not the objective lens. That's the tube, because that's where the mechanics are, right? In the middle with the knobby things and the stuff and the thing you turn and, the stuff. So the Bushnell Elite does. Brownells has the MPO, the match precision optic that I have on my 6mm rifle, and it has a 34 millimeter tube. And I can dial to 1,400 yards with that tube. Not holdover, dial, exact elevation. So if you want to shoot long range, you have to say, okay, how much elevation do I have in this scope? If your elevation tops out at 725 yards, then that's it. From that point forward, you're guesstimating, right? You're holding over and guessing. It's always better to center hold and just fudge with your wind. Always better, trust me. So you need to look at your rifle and say, all right, is my rifle, does it have that stuff on it? Does it have a free-floated barrel? How heavy is the barrel? Is it a lightweight profile? Is it a hunting barrel? Is it meant for me hiking up and down hills and mountains and stuff? And I don't want to carry no 12-pound rifle because that's way too much. So I'm going to carry a 6-pound rifle. And where's most of the weight in a rifle? The barrel, right? So how do you lighten up a rifle? You make the barrel thinner. That's what you do. But the thinner the barrel, the hotter it gets, faster, right? That's just the way it is. So if you're going to shoot long distance, you say, okay, what kind of barrel do I have? Is it a heavy barrel? Is it free-floated into the stock? What kind of stock do I have? Is there vibration in the stock? Is it bedded into the stock properly so that I'm not going to get any variance or movement or what have you? What kind of trigger do I have? When I press the trigger, do I see when I'm focusing on my crosshairs and I press the trigger and I notice them moving? If the crosshairs are moving as I'm pressing the trigger, it's probably a little too heavy. You might want to lighten that sucker up. Now, you can't get it too light because you get light primer strikes and your rounds will go off. What is my cartridge? Now, this is a big one. Why does the 6.5 Creedmoor exist, Jared? What's its primary job? What do people want to do with it? Do they want to shoot 100 yards at their local?
They want to do 1,000 plus yards.
They want to do long. The 6.5 and the 6 Creedmoor were built, designed, made to go long. The reason people want to go long is because since we have laser rangefinders, people know that that's an 800-yard target. They know it's a 1,000-yard target. They know it's 12 or whatever. And because they know that and they could put the exact dope onto their scope, now they have to have a cartridge that's capable of getting out there. Your 308, if you're on the East Coast around sea level, your 308 is going subsonic around 900 yards. Now, this depends your elevation. Don't write me letters. You're like, no, where I live, it's okay. Calm down. In general, between 900 and 1,000 yards, your 308 will go subsonic. You say, who cares? It's the bullet still moving. When a rifle bullet goes subsonic, what do we know, Jared? What happens to a rifle bullet when it goes below the speed of sound, when it dips below 1,000 feet per second?
it becomes crap. I can't remember the word. I just lost it.
It becomes unpredictable.
Yeah, but I was looking for the good Lord.
You're looking for the good Lord.
Yeah.
He's going to find you. Hallelujah.
Somebody help me out with the word I'm looking for.
Transonic.
That's it.
Transonic. So when your rifle bullet drops below, when it goes below supersonic, when it becomes subsonic, slower than the speed of sound, right? Predicting the impact and calling shots becomes a crapshoot. All right. This is the reality of the world we live in, which we live. You're not always going to hit your target on the first shot. Sometimes the wind's going to push it, right? If that bullet is going supersonic, you will be able to predict and make adjustments correctly. When the bullet goes subsonic, transonic, whatever, when it gets slower than speed of sound, in the 900 feet per second range, whatever, it becomes almost impossible to call your shots and to make accurate adjustments. So if the 308's not doing it, now where we live, because we shoot at 7,200, 7,300 feet above sea level, there's a difference. The air's thinner, and I can get 1,000 yards out of a 308. You're in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Mississippi, you're not getting 1,000 yards out of a 308, because at like 942 yards, it goes subsonic, and now it becomes just a crapshoot, right? So what do we have? We're like, well, we're going to do that. We're going to take a 308 sized rifle chamber, 308 bolt, short action, and we're going to create the 6.5 Creedmoor, a bullet with a fantastic ballistic coefficient, and it's still going faster than 1,000 at 1,000 yards. Now we can accurately do that. I can hit at 1,000. I can hit at 1,400. I can hit here where we live. We can hit at a mile with that thing. That's a big difference. And if you're going to shoot long range, you need to know that. You're not going to shoot 1,000 yards with your favorite 5.56. Yeah, the bullet will continue to fly and it'll still be there. But the point is to make accurate first-time hits or second-time hits or whatever, one shot, one hit. So you have to look at your rifle. Is my rifle capable? Does it have a free-floated barrel? Does it have a good stock? Is the action bedded? Do I have a good trigger? And so forth. My optic. Does my optic have enough elevation? Can I dial it up? Or once I get past 650 yards, I'm just aiming at the sky, hoping the bullet hits there. My cartridge. What kind of cartridge am I using? And it depends. There's a lot of cartridges out there that are still supersonic at 900, 1,000 yards. You have to look at your cartridge. You say, okay, what's the bullet weight? What's the velocity? Where am I shooting on planet Earth? Is my range 20 feet above sea level? Or is my range 7,000 feet above sea level or 5,000 feet above sea level? Because there's a big difference. If you read your charts, you're like, wow, the difference in bullet flight and drop at 5,000 and 50 feet above sea level are pretty different. And the great news is the higher up you get, the better you get. That's why you guys want to know why the world record sniper shots all happen in Afghanistan? Because the air's thin, man. the air is Afghanistan is literally sniper paradise. These long range gurus up there with their 338 Lapua Magnums are doing crazy, insane trick shots, shooting from mountain to mountain because they're up high. The air is thin. The light, it's perfect. That's why the longest sniper shots in the world now are happening in Afghanistan because the conditions are perfect. If you want to shoot long range, and long range shooting is great, it's fun. I love it. I love it. I'm super jazzed. I've been popping the 1,400 yard target now regularly, and I'm pretty excited about that, quite frankly. So it's good stuff. And it all goes back to, I believe it is a fair assessment to say that the crave of American rifle shooters wanting to shoot Creedmoors, 6.5s, the Hornady has the 6.5 ARC. All these companies are coming out with these super cool long-range cartridges. Why? If we didn't have the ability to accurately determine range with laser rangefinders, would these guys be crazy into long-range shooting? Now you say, well, there were people doing long-range shooting 30, 40 years ago. I mean, the Wimbledon Cup is 1,000 yards, right? But why wasn't it a nationwide craze? You know, guys
have the technology to do it
exactly,
or to make it more enjoyable.
The average shooter, you don't have to be in the military, you don't have to be a sponsored shooter, you don't have to, you don't have to be part of the top 1% elite. Now the average American with an investment of $100 or $200 in a laser rangefinder, a couple $100 in a laser rangefinder, can determine range. I mean, holy crap! We were talking to Carlos. Their monocular, their handheld viewfinder can range up to a mile. A mile. 20 years ago, if a laser rangefinder ranged to 500 yards, we were excited, weren't we? We're like, wow, this thing will range to 500 yards. And now they're like, yeah, we'll give you the same thing for the same price. You can range out to a mile with this thing. What? That's crazy. And it's available to the average person. And that is the joy, and that's the beauty of long-range shooting right now. And that's why so many people are getting into it. That's why so many people are getting into it, enjoying it, and getting involved in it. And here in just a few days, a bunch of you, several of you, are going to be here, and we're going to be out on my range. We're going to be out on our long-distance range, and we're going to spend a whole weekend long-distance rifle shooting right here, precision rifle shooting in Wyoming. It's a good thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That is long-range shooting and hell and back. I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back on Wednesday with another show. Thank you very much for being a part of the Student Gun audience. I appreciate it. And remember, you're a beginner once.
You're a student for life.
We appreciate your reviews. If you haven't left a review or updated yours recently, head on over to Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player to voice your opinion. Don't forget to join us at the Student Lounge, a place for like-minded individuals to learn, connect, and support each other. No chicanery will be tolerated. Remember to check studentofthegun.com daily for new, free content and giveaways. Watch, listen, read, shop, and connect at studentofthegun.com. Are you a social butterfly? Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for new content each and every day at Student of the Gun. Watch Student of the Gun TV and videos from our trusted partners on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, and even AirPlay. Go to studentofthegun.com for direct links, and remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.